Ryan moved through the long hallway of the research base with a relaxed step. He was a young human technician, known for fixing almost anything that had wires or circuits. Most workers on the base respected him because he never refused to help. He liked repairing devices, and he liked helping people even more. The base was quiet this season, with most teams working in distant sectors, so he often walked alone, listening to the soft hum of machines that kept the structure alive. He turned a corner and almost slipped on something lying on the floor. When he looked down, he saw a small digital notebook, the kind many workers use to store personal notes or schedules. It was simple, scratched on the sides, and clearly owned by someone who did not have money for newer tools. Ryan bent down, picked it up, brushed the dust off, and looked for an identification tag. There was none. He pressed the side button, puzzled, hoping the screen would show a name. The screen glowed softly, and he froze for a moment. Words appeared on the display. For a second, he thought it was a malfunction, but then he realized the device had opened on a page already written by someone. Before he could turn it off, a line caught his eye. It was not a schedule. It was not a list. It was a personal diary page. His first instinct was to close it immediately, but a few words appeared clear and impossible to ignore. The sentence said that the writer dreamed of becoming an astronavigator but believed the dream was impossible. There was a shaky line beneath it, as if the writer had pressed down hard while writing, maybe in frustration or sadness. Ryan's hand hovered over the close button. He hated seeing something private, but he could not help feeling a sudden heaviness in his chest. He quickly turned off the notebook and looked around. The hallway was empty. No one was nearby. He wondered who the owner was. He had seen many workers pass through this area, but one face came into his mind. A quiet alien girl who often cleaned this hallway and never spoke more than a soft greeting. She always kept her head down, as if afraid to be seen. Her uniform was worn, and her steps were light, almost silent. He had noticed her several times, but had never spoken to her beyond a simple hello. Her name was Lyra. He remembered it because one of the supervisors had called her once when she dropped her cleaning tools. She had looked embarrassed then, too, her pale lavender skin warming into a shy pink shade. Lyra was from a gentle species who rarely raised their voices or demanded anything from others. They were peaceful but often lacked confidence when interacting with humans or stronger species. Ryan held the notebook carefully, realizing it must be hers. He knew she cleaned this hallway at the same time every day. He stood still for a moment, thinking about the words he saw. He had no idea she had such a dream. He had always thought she worked here only to earn enough to survive. To him, she seemed so quiet, so small, and almost invisible in a place filled with louder workers and busy soldiers. He had never imagined that she secretly wanted to study stars and travel among them. He walked toward the maintenance room, hoping he might find her there. As he turned the next corner, he saw her kneeling on the ground, picking up spilled tools from a small cart. Her hands were trembling as she worked. She looked around nervously, like she feared someone would scold her even though she had done nothing wrong. Ryan approached slowly, so he would not scare her. She looked up when she heard his steps, and her wide silver eyes blinked in surprise. She stood quickly, holding her hands close to her chest. "Is this yours?" Ryan asked softly, holding out the small notebook. Lyra's eyes widened even more. She nodded with a quick motion and reached for it, but her fingers stopped just before touching it, as if she was scared of what he might say next. "It was on the floor," Ryan said before she worried. "I didn't know who it belonged to. I only pressed the side button to check the name." He paused. "I didn't mean to see anything inside." Lyra lowered her head, her long, soft hair falling around her face. She whispered a thank you so quietly he almost missed it. She clutched the notebook to her chest, her hands shaking lightly. Ryan felt a twist of guilt. He wished he had not seen that page, but at the same time, he felt glad he knew something important now. Something that she clearly carried alone. He watched her turn away slightly as if she wanted to disappear. Her shoulders looked small, her movements careful, like someone who expected trouble even when there was none. Ryan stepped forward a little. "Lyra," he said gently. She looked up, surprised that he knew her name. "Do you like stars?" he asked. She blinked at him, confused and shy. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out for a moment. Then she nodded once, very slowly, as if she feared her answer might be wrong. Ryan gave a small, warm smile. "I like them too." Lyra looked confused. It was clear she did not understand why he was talking to her about stars. Ryan wanted to ask more, but he did not want her to feel embarrassed. He lifted his tool bag slightly. "If you ever want to learn about the star maps or navigation screens, I can show you sometime," he said gently. "Only if you want to." Her eyes widened again, but this time it was not fear. It was surprise. Maybe even a little hope. She did not answer, but her fingers tightened slightly around the notebook, and she gave a small nod before lowering her gaze again. Ryan left the moment as it was. He did not want to push her. He turned and walked away, but as he moved down the hallway, he felt something new inside himself. He felt responsible, not in a heavy way, but in a warm way. The simple words in her diary had touched him more deeply than he expected. He knew what it felt like to dream of something and feel it was too far away. That night, Ryan sat at his small workspace inside his quarters and thought about Lyra. He had seen trainees from many species try to become navigators. Some passed, most failed. The exams were hard, and the training was even harder. But Lyra had something he rarely saw in others. A quiet determination hidden beneath her fear. He remembered the shaky line under the word impossible. He imagined her writing it alone, probably hoping one day to be brave enough to try. He opened an old storage locker and pulled out a compact training console. It was outdated but still functional. He had repaired it months ago and kept it for spare parts. Now, he thought it could become something useful for someone else. He worked on it for hours, adjusting the interface so it would be easy for a beginner. He added simple star charts and a basic learning program that explained navigation routes. When he finished, he sat back and looked at the screen with satisfaction. The next day, Ryan searched for Lyra during her work shift. He found her cleaning near the observation deck. She looked tired but focused, wiping the glass panels with slow movements. The large windows behind her showed the stars outside, thousands of lights scattered across the dark. He watched her for a moment, noticing how her eyes always drifted toward the stars even while working. He approached quietly. Lyra noticed him and stiffened, unsure why he was there again. Ryan lifted the small training console. "I fixed this old console," he said. "I thought maybe you could use it. You don't have to take it if you don't want to." Lyra stared at the device, then at him. Her eyes softened with surprise. Her hand slowly reached out, hesitant but curious. She held the console gently, as if it was something precious. She looked up at him and asked in a tiny voice, "For me?" Ryan nodded. "Yes. You can learn the basics on it. No pressure, no tests. Just learning." Lyra held the device close, almost the same way she had held her diary. She looked at the stars again, then back at him. Her lips trembled slightly, and Ryan realized she was trying not to get emotional. She whispered a thank you, this time a little louder than before. Over the next few days, Lyra used the console whenever she had free time. Ryan sometimes saw her sitting in a quiet corner, studying the star routes with deep concentration. Even though she worked long hours, she always tried to learn a little more each day. Ryan noticed how her confidence slowly grew. She began to ask him small questions about navigation. Simple questions at first, then deeper ones. He answered every question with patience. He never rushed her. He never made her feel judged. And soon, she began to speak a little more. Her voice stayed soft, but her eyes started to shine with curiosity. One evening, she approached Ryan while he was repairing a communication panel. She stood silently beside him for a moment. "Ryan," she said softly. He looked at her with a friendly smile. "Yes?" She paused, searching for the right words. After a moment, she said, "The stars? They look very far. But when you teach me, they feel closer." Ryan felt something warm spread in his chest. He could see hope in her eyes, and it was brighter than anything outside the window. He nodded. "Maybe your dream is not impossible, Lyra. Maybe it is only waiting for someone to help you take the first step." Lyra lowered her gaze, but this time she was not hiding. She was overwhelmed. She held the training console close and whispered, "I want to learn more." And Ryan answered with a steady, confident voice, "Then I will teach you everything I can." The days that followed brought small changes, but each one felt important. Lyra no longer walked with her head completely down. She still moved softly, still spoke quietly, but there was a new lightness in her steps. When she looked at the stars through the observation deck, she no longer looked like someone who believed her dream was impossible. She looked like someone who was beginning to imagine a future she had never thought she could reach. Ryan watched her progress with pride. He had promised himself something the moment he read that one painful sentence in her diary. He would help her chase that dream. He would make sure she believed in herself. And he knew part one of her journey had only just begun. Lyra woke up early that morning before the alarms in the worker dorms had even started. She sat on the edge of her small bed and looked at the training console Ryan had given her. The screen was dark, but she knew every lesson inside it by heart now. For weeks she had practiced with it during every small break she had. She had read star maps, memorized routes, and learned how to navigate through simulated asteroid fields. Her soft fingers brushed across the console, and she took a deep breath. She had never believed she would come this far. Ryan had changed everything for her. His kindness had been quiet, steady, and full of patience. He never pushed her, never rushed her, and never made her feel small. With him, she felt safe enough to learn. She felt safe enough to dream. Now that dream felt closer than ever. That same morning, Ryan walked through the base with a cup of warm tea in his hand. He felt good, better than usual, because today he had something important to tell Lyra. As he moved through the hallways, he passed soldiers, workers, and scientists, all busy with their routines. But he walked with purpose. When he reached the observation deck, he found Lyra already there, sitting on a small bench near the window. Her eyes were fixed on the stars outside. The galaxy looked like a sea of lights stretching far into the dark. Ryan smiled and approached her. She turned her head slightly when she sensed him nearby, and her lips curved into a shy, small smile. "You're up early," Ryan said gently. "I couldn't sleep," Lyra replied in her soft voice. "I kept thinking about the routes you showed me yesterday." Ryan sat beside her. "That's a good sign," he said with a light laugh. "It means you're ready for something more." Her eyes widened with curiosity. "More?" Ryan nodded. "There's a junior navigation test next month. Anyone can register. It's open to all species, and it's not too advanced. It's the kind of test people take before entering real training." Lyra's hands tightened around the training console she was holding. Her breath caught for a moment. The test. The very test she had written about in her diary. The one she believed she would never reach. The word impossible echoed in her mind, but now the echo was weaker than before. "You could take it," Ryan said softly. Lyra looked down at her hands. Her shoulders tensed slightly. "I don't know if I can." Ryan watched her carefully. He could see fear and hope fighting inside her. He hesitated for a moment, then decided it was time to tell her the truth. He leaned forward slightly. "Lyra," he said gently, "there is something I need to tell you." She looked up slowly, confused by his tone. "The day I found your notebook, it opened by accident," he said carefully. "Before I could close it, I saw one page." Lyra froze. The color in her cheeks deepened in embarrassment. She held the console against her chest like a shield. Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I didn't mean to read anything," Ryan said quickly. "It was just a few lines, but it was enough for me to understand something important." Lyra's voice was barely above a whisper. "You read about my dream." "Yes," Ryan admitted softly. "I read that you wanted to become a navigator, and I read that you believed it was impossible." Her heart pounded fast. Shame washed over her. She wanted to hide. She wanted to disappear, but she also wanted to hear the rest. Her silver eyes lifted slowly to meet his. Ryan continued with calm honesty. "I didn't help you because I felt sorry for you. I helped you because you have a real dream, a real talent. And I want to see you succeed." Lyra swallowed the knot in her throat. Her voice shook. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want anyone to laugh." "No one is laughing," Ryan said gently. "Least of all me." She stayed silent for a long moment. Then she whispered, "I don't know if I can take the test. What if I fail?" Ryan smiled softly. "Then you try again. And if you fail again, you try again. You're allowed to fall. What matters is that you keep going." His words settled into her heart like warm light. She closed her eyes for a moment and breathed slowly. When she opened them, the fear was still there, but something stronger was beginning to rise beside it. "What if," Lyra said quietly, "what if I try?" Ryan nodded. "Then I'll be right here to help you." The next few weeks were filled with focused training. Every day after her cleaning shift, Lyra met with Ryan. They worked with old star map simulators, damaged navigation panels Ryan had repaired, and digital route puzzles meant for trainees. Lyra learned quickly. She made mistakes like everyone else, but she corrected them faster than expected. Sometimes her hands shook when she touched the controls, but Ryan placed his hand beside hers, not to guide, but to remind her she was not alone. As the exam day approached, Lyra grew more nervous. She woke early, slept lightly, and sometimes forgot to eat. But her determination stayed strong. Ryan watched her carefully, making sure she rested and kept calm. He reminded her often that she had come so far and that passing or failing one test would not define her worth. Finally, the morning of the test arrived. Lyra stood outside the exam room with trembling hands. The hall was filled with trainees from different species. Some looked excited, others confident, and a few looked nervous like her. Lyra felt small among them, unsure if she belonged here. Ryan approached her with a warm smile. "You're ready," he said calmly. She shook her head. "I feel scared." "That's normal," Ryan replied. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when you're scared." Lyra looked at the doors of the exam room. They seemed huge, almost intimidating. She clutched her training console one last time, then handed it to Ryan. "Keep it safe," she whispered. "I will," he said, taking it gently. Lyra took a deep breath, lifted her chin slightly, and walked through the doors. Inside the exam room, she sat at a small station with a navigation panel in front of her. The test began with simple questions. She answered them carefully, her hands shaking slightly. Then came route calculations. She paused for a moment, closed her eyes, and remembered Ryan's steady voice guiding her through practice. She relaxed her shoulders and began to work. As the test grew more difficult, she focused harder. At one point, She made a mistake, and panic rushed through her, but she corrected it quickly. She reminded herself that Ryan believed in her, and that helped her believe in herself a little more. Outside the room, Ryan waited. Every minute felt long. He paced back and forth, trying not to imagine Lyra panicking or freezing. He trusted her skills, but he knew her confidence was fragile. He hoped his support would be enough. After what felt like an hour, the doors opened. Trainees walked out slowly, some relieved, some disappointed. Lyra appeared last. She held her hands close to her chest, her expression unreadable. Ryan hurried toward her. "How did it go?" Lyra opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes were filled with nervous emotion. Ryan waited patiently. "I don't know," she whispered. "I tried my best." "That's all anyone can do," Ryan said softly. They waited for the results to be posted on the digital board in the hall. Dozens of trainees gathered around it. Lyra stood at the back, too afraid to look. Ryan stayed beside her. When the names finally appeared, the crowd murmured and shifted. Ryan scanned the list quickly. His eyes moved down the ranks until he saw her name. "Lyra," he said with a bright smile. "You passed." She looked up at him, stunned. Her lips parted slowly. "I passed?" "Yes," Ryan said with pure pride. "And not just passed. You scored in the top 15. Lyra covered her mouth with both hands. Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of overwhelming joy. Her whole body trembled as she let out a small sound of surprise, a sound she had never made before. She turned toward the board and saw her name glowing softly among the top scorers. Something inside her heart opened, something that had been hidden and small for so long. It blossomed into hope, confidence, and happiness all at once. A senior officer approached her, noticing her name on the board. He offered her a small badge. "Congratulations, you are accepted as a junior trainee navigator. Training starts next cycle." Lyra took the badge with trembling hands. She stared at it, unable to believe it was real. When the officer walked away, Lyra turned to Ryan slowly. Her eyes reflected both the lights of the hall and the stars she loved so much. "I never thought this day would come," she whispered. Ryan stepped closer and spoke softly. "It came because you worked for it. It came because you believed enough to try. You did this, Lyra." She shook her head with gentle emotion. "No, I would never have reached here alone." Ryan smiled. "Maybe, but you were never meant to walk alone." Lyra lowered her gaze, her cheeks warming with gratitude. She held the badge close to her heart and breathed deeply. For the first time in her life, she felt truly proud of herself. Later, Ryan walked with her to the observation deck. The stars shone brightly through the large window. Lyra stood there quietly, looking at them with new eyes. They were no longer impossibly far. They were no longer dreams she could not touch. They were her future. She turned to Ryan and said softly, "You made my dream come true." Ryan shook his head. "You made it come true. I only helped you see that it was possible." Lyra took a step closer, her voice full of quiet emotion. "Thank you for everything, for believing in me when I could not believe in myself." Ryan felt warmth fill his chest. He looked at the young alien girl who had walked with fear in her steps not long ago. Now she stood tall, with hope glowing in her eyes. She was stronger than she realized. She was ready for the world beyond the base. As the stars shined above them, Lyra whispered, "I will not stop here. I will learn more. I will keep going." Ryan nodded proudly. "You will, and wherever you go, the stars will welcome you." Lyra looked at the galaxy once more. The dream she had once called impossible had become real. Her journey as a navigator was only beginning, and Ryan knew that she would travel far, farther than she had ever imagined.